Hey guys, it's Kevin Kreider. Today I am going to do a full day of eating with a vegan diet while doing intermittent fasting. And for those who don't know how to do a vegan diet or intermittent fasting, I have past videos I've done based on this subject, but I'm doing a travel vlog on vegan diets and intermittent fasting in different parts of the country and different cities in Asia. And right now I am in Phu Quoc, Vietnam, and I've only been here for a couple of days, and I was able to do a weight training session this morning, and I had a cup of coffee and I was drinking plenty of water, guys, throughout the whole day. It is almost 10 a.m. I've been drinking water since I woke up, had coffee, and it's Vietnamese coffee most of the time, but today it's been more like hotel Vietnamese coffee, which is not the same. Just because the writing's in Vietnamese does not mean it is Vietnamese coffee. I found out it's just not as strong. I just finished working out and I had 2 cups of coffee before my workout, and that'll desensitize your pain receptors with the caffeine, increases your focus and intensity and endurance. Caffeine has been shown to do that, especially up to 300 milligrams right before you work out. And I did that about 20 to 30 minutes before, because it takes about 20 or 30 minutes for it to absorb into your system. I am doing a 14-hour fasting window combined with a 10-hour feeding window. And I usually do that with vegan diets because I need a fair amount of calories. I need at least 2,500 calories, and that's in a caloric deficit, to 3,000 calories to maintain my weight from a vegan diet. And I've been finding that it's been very challenging for me to get enough calories through plant-based and vegan diet and not having cheese and fats. I've been getting a lot of my calories through nuts and grains and noodles. And Vietnamese diet has a lot of pho, and that's usually what I've been having for breakfast, actually, is pho with tofu. And it's been harder to try to get enough protein, especially a variety of protein. So most of my protein here in Vietnam has been nuts and pho with vegetables, like as much greens as possible, and especially tofu. That's been my saving grace here. A little tip too for people just starting off with doing intermittent fasting with a vegan diet: if your calorie intake to lose body fat, and that's your goal, is to lose body fat, and if it's 2,000 calories or below, I recommend starting off with a 10-hour feeding window and then a 14-hour fasting window to just get used to intermittent fasting, especially if you're just starting. If you've already done intermittent fasting before and you've already done vegan, then what I recommend doing is just going right into the 16-8, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of feeding, because the calories are slightly less and it's harder to eat that. It's easier to eat 2,000 calories in a 8-hour feeding window than it is when you have to eat 3,000 calories in an 8-hour feeding window. A beginner, once you get that window of 10 hours and you're adjusted, then I recommend going to the 16-8 window, the 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of feeding. But like I said, if you are above 2,500 calories like I am, to 3,000, then I recommend just sticking with the 10-hour feeding window and 14 hours of fasting right away, because I find it's very difficult and challenging to get enough of those calories, especially in the beginning, because you're always going to be off a little bit with the calories in the beginning of a vegan diet. Little problems, very manageable, but a lot of people will be like, what's the problem with that? You can't eat enough calories. The problem with that is that you just hit a wall, because I found out I was only eating 12 to 1,400 calories when I was used to 25 to 3,000, and I felt de-energized. I was losing strength, I was losing energy right away, and I definitely was losing a little bit of muscle at the same time, being underneath that extreme of a low for about 7 days in a row. So it wasn't a benefit for me at that time. All right, I'm off to breakfast. It's around 10 a.m. Got up at 6 a.m. Just got my workout in, started at 9, and I'm gonna have my first meal of the day. It's 10 a.m. and I have to say, I've discovered a new amazing fruit. It's called passion fruit, and I love it because it's tarty, like a candy, like a piece of candy. It's really tarty, actually, and I love chewing on the seeds. Now, usually with intermittent fasting, I like to use fruit as a strategy to be like training wheels. So for instance, if you're not used to a 16-hour fast, you can have a piece of fruit an hour or two before you break your fast, and that just holds you over until you get to your first big meal of solid food, so you get adjusted to it. It does technically break the fast when you have a piece of fruit, because it spikes up your insulin, and then it slows and reduces the growth hormone and epinephrine, norepinephrine. But it's for the mental sanity of people to get through the fasting period. So then eventually, after 2 to 3 months of doing that, you can stop using the fruit strategy before you break your fast. And then you can also use fruit as something in between your meals. So for instance, if I get up at 6 a.m. and my first meal's at 12, using the fruit strategy in the beginning, I would have a piece of fruit around 10 or 11, and then have my first meal at 12. And then using the fruit strategy again, in between my meals, I could have my first meal at 12, using the same method of waking up at 6, first meal at 12, around 2 to 3, have a piece of fruit like passion fruit, and then have my last meal around 6 or 7 o'clock, and then start fasting again. But for this, the reason why you want to do that is because fruit can be digested a little bit easier on an empty stomach, but when it's mixed with food, it gets a little jammed up in your stomach, and it's just not as good. But what I have here are 2 pieces of passion fruit, and I'm eating that right now. What I'll do is I'll eat this for about 10 or 15 minutes later, let it go through my body a little bit more, and then I'm going to have this is pho, but just without the broth, obviously, of tofu, 2 servings of tofu vegetable pho. Some people call it pho, but I call it pho because I got ripped by a Vietnamese girl who's like, "That's so disrespectful, you dumb American." Actually, she probably didn't say that. I'm just kind of making that up. But I like to say pho instead of pho. Now I do, just because I'm in Vietnam, and when in Vietnam, why not just get the language correct? So I'll eat this. This is about 33 grams of protein. It'll fill me up. And don't forget, because I'm doing a 10-hour window, it just gives me more time to have 3 meals, 3 whole meals in this feeding period, which goes counterproductive of what I've preached in the past with intermittent fasting, which is 3 meals is bulking. But that was before vegan, because vegan is just so low calorie anyway, and it's whole foods, and a lot of it's unprocessed. So you're not going to be able to eat 3 whole meals, or at least most people won't be able to, in an 8-hour or a 6-hour feeding window. So I like to extend the window by 2 hours, like a bulking strategy I do in the past, and eat 3 whole meals, and have a piece of fruit in between, or a snack like nuts in between my meals, just to get enough calories and protein in throughout the day. So I'm going to enjoy this, and I'll see you guys at the next meal. Just took a nap on this little bench right here, and just waking up again. I finished reading a little bit of my book. I'm going to have a little bit of coffee right now. It's around 12 o'clock. And like I said, I don't really recommend having more than 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day. This is instant coffee, by the way. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at that, especially since I've been in Vietnam. I sometimes been having like 4, 5, and actually it keeps me up in the middle of the night. So just be aware of that too. When you have too much coffee, I recommend I recommend cutting off the last cup of coffee at least 6 hours before you go to bed. At least. Really, what's recommended is about 12 to 16 hours. I mean, caffeine has a half-life of around 16 hours, actually. So that's really ideal. It's almost like right away when you wake up. But 12 hours you can probably get away with, and even 10. And I know that seems like I just keep going lower in numbers, but recently I've only been doing about 6 hours before I go to bed. And I have to tell you, the consequence is actually just getting up at midnight and being restless, and also just having bursts of energy. So I'm going to try to practice what I preach today and have my last cup 10 hours before I go to bed, which is right now. This is my last cup of coffee. Of course.
segunda.
Can you order again with me?
¿Dónde es el sello?
So, Seba, let me get this straight. You haven't had a burger in 8 years?
So I just had a pineapple fried rice, which is very low calorie, and that's why I extend my feeding window a little bit longer, just because it takes.
You had a bunch of calories. I saw you eat some chocolate.
When did I eat chocolate?
I saw him eat chocolate.
I did not eat chocolate.
Yeah,
She's
you did.
lying. She's lying.
Then how
She's-
come what's his gummy belly?
Meat every day.
What's his
Burger, big burger.
They're picking on me right now. So you'll see in the MyFitnessPal, I still have less than 1,000 calories that I ate today. Last night was delicious. It had some of the best sauteed mushrooms I've ever had, and I was finally able to get lentils in, and lentil salads, and they have great sources of protein. Lentils, it wasn't as much as I would have liked the lentils. Something I would have probably done better yesterday for food is actually get more nuts in, because my fats were extremely low and my protein was low, and I might have gotten an extra lentil salad, and as you can tell, the calories were somewhat low. And the thing is, I like to have at least 2,500 calories even on a vegan diet, which is probably explain why I'm just dropping so much weight so fast, even a little bit of muscle, and being a little bit out of my weight training routine as well. I asked the waiters if the bread was vegan. I had my friend ask in Vietnamese, and even then you have to be a little weary because they're not quite sure what vegan really means here, so you have to say no milk, no dairy, no cheese, no nothing, okay? No cream. You have to be very specific whenever you ask if there's a certain product in some of the food. And they actually had a vegetarian list, which is where I got the lentils from, but then I asked for no cheese. That's how you can do it with going vegan in different parts. And now this was a really nice restaurant, so I wouldn't say you're gonna have the accommodation like this everywhere you go in Vietnam, because every place I've gone to in Vietnam that didn't have this type of accommodation and service, they didn't really understand. And things came out with chicken, even though they said vegetarian, and there's no, it's vegan, and it still came with shrimp and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be careful. My protein was extremely low. That is something that I do get concerned about, especially with the weight training I do and wanting to keep my physique. I like to at least break 100, and that's something I could have done, so I'm going to try to overcompensate a little bit more today. But I just wanted to show you what an example looks like, a full day of eating for me being vegan. It's a lot of food, as you can see, and yet it's still somewhat low calories, which explains why vegans can be extremely healthy and thin if they eat right. And that's really been hard for me, is to get enough calories in. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and if you got some value, please share, because that's the only way other people can find out and learn about this stuff that you're learning right now and enjoying and finding value in. Subscribe. Please take the body design tools in the description above. It's free to take. It's a quiz, and it'll guide you to one of my muscle and strength programs and my body design collection. See you guys.